All right, let's move on and talk a little bit about this debate. There is a final chance for both President Obama and Mitt Romney to battle each other in person. It's the third final presidential debate in Boca Raton in Florida. It's anybody's race at this point. If you look at the polling from NBC News, Wall Street Journal, all tied up, 47% apiece. Let's get right to Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming. He's on the Foreign Relations Committee. Tonight's debate focuses on foreign policy. It's nice to see you, sir. Thank you for talking with us.
Soledad, thanks for having me.
You bet. Let's look at those polls. I showed you the first one a moment ago, all tied up, 47 to 47. Then if you look at registered voters' choice for president, President Obama is ahead 49 to Mitt Romney's 44%. That's also NBC News, Wall Street Journal polling. A sampling error is just over 3%. So even that shows it's very tight. How worried are you when you look at numbers like this?
Well, when you notice that Mitt Romney is doing so well in the issues of who's best qualified to handle jobs, the economy, and the debt, and which is the overriding issue, in my opinion, all across the country. What people are focused on is the economy, that I think this is going to do very well for Mitt Romney over the next 2 weeks and for Election Day.
Let me read to you some endorsements that the president has gotten. I was reading to Chris Van Hollen just a moment ago some of the endorsements that Governor Romney has gotten. But for President Obama, the Denver Post says, on policies ranging from tax reform to immigration, from health care to higher ed, none of Romney's numbers add up. Moreover, he's been unwilling or unable to outline for voters specifics that demonstrate his math works, probably because it doesn't. The Durango Herald, which is in Colorado, said Romney has publicly demonstrated no core convictions behind his obvious belief that he should be president. He apparently thinks that simply not being Obama is qualification enough. And finally, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, all politicians change positions over time. Obama in 2008 shifted his position on health care reform more to the center. But Romney's frequent changes raises questions about his core principles and make his lack of policy details all the more troubling. You've got two issues that they keep going to. Number one, he shifts. Number two, where are the details?
When you take a look at all of the polls, even the endorsements of the president have been very tepid. There's not a lot of support for the president out there either. I think you're going to hear tonight in the debate Mitt Romney getting back to the core, since it's a foreign policy debate. The most important issue, the biggest threat to our national security, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said, is our national debt. And what did the president promise? He promised that over the first term that he would cut the deficit in half. He has not. We've added $5 trillion to our national debt. This is terrible for our nation. That is, Ronald Reagan supported peace through strength, and strength a lot has to do with our economy and how strong of a nation we have, and Mitt Romney is the right person to lead on that.
As you know, if there were a Democrat sitting up here, that person would tick off all the things that the Democrats would say, which is, look at the trending. Certainly, the unemployment numbers are now down. The president was talking about that the other day, and all these other sort of indicators. I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head. That housing starts and consumer confidence, et cetera, et cetera. They would say it's been slow for sure, but look, it's finally turning around, and that's an indication that the president's been on the right track. I mean, we hear that a lot whenever someone who's representing the Obama campaign comes and talks to us. Why are they wrong about that?
Well, the country can't afford the next 4 years to be like the last 4 years is what we've gotten with the president. The president, for his first 2 years, had everything he wanted. He had 60 Democrats in the Senate. He had the House, and he had the White House. And they gave you everything they wanted. And I'll tell you, the country is in worse shape as a result of it. The so-called stimulus package has failed. The health care law, I believe, is going to bankrupt the country. We cannot afford that for the next 4 years. I believe that the president has failed to lead. He's failed to lead internationally as well as nationally with the economy. All he seems to want to do is just spend more money, add more to the debt, and I don't think that's the right prescription or solution for our country. We need a bold leader who can actually get people working again. We still have 23 million Americans who are either unemployed or underemployed. If you take a family and they go to their income has dropped about $4,000 over the last number of years, and yet the president said their insurance premiums, health insurance premiums, would be down $2,500 a family. Instead, they're up. I think Ron's trying to get in.
Yeah. Good morning, Senator. Ron Brownstein from National Journal.
Hey, Ron.
Yesterday there were reports that the administration is considering or moving toward direct negotiations with Iran over its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Do you think that would be...
The White House has denied that. Iran has also denied.
No, they've denied that they've reached an agreement in principle,
right.
But there's no question they seem to be discussing the possibility of direct negotiations with Iran. Do you think that would be a good idea or a bad idea? And do you think Mitt Romney would pursue direct negotiations with Iran if he is elected?
The president's been saying this. He said this when he ran 4 years ago, that he would open up negotiations with Iran. 4 years later, under the president and the promises that he's made, Iran is much closer to a nuclear weapon. They have 4 times as much enriched material as they had when he took office. The sanctions that we have basically forced upon the White House, and the president has finally gone with, but then they gave a lot of waivers. So we know that China is still sending money to Iran. Well, we need to do anything possible to make sure Iran does not have nuclear weapons. The White House denies the story, so it'll probably come up in the debate tonight.
And you didn't answer the second part of that, which was Mitt Romney. Where would he stand on that? Would he do the same thing in engaging in discussions with the Iranians?
I think Mitt Romney will do anything he can to make sure that the Iranians do not get nuclear weapons.
Senator Barrasso, nice to see you, sir. Thank you for talking with us this morning. We certainly appreciate it.
Thanks, Soledad. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.